Life Day and Thanksgiving celebrations. I unfortunately could not be here last week to cover Crimson Climb with you guys.
Miss you, buddy.
Yeah. So, loved the book. I listened to the audiobook. I thought it was fantastic. E.K. Johnston just nails Star Wars writing and setting the scene, and Corellia and like Florum and all these, or Thorum, I think it's called. Like so many planets that were just wonderfully built out. Loved the imagery of like the Scrum Rat life on Corellia. Loved all the missions with Crimson Dawn, the infighting in Crimson Dawn. I thought that was super well done. And I thought it was just an outstanding YA novel for Star Wars.
Right.
I loved it.
Wasn't it so grimy? Like, I love all the detail.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much detail. You just like, it's
like a body gets bloated and bursts in the sewers of Corellia in like a day. Like no body lasts very long. Like there's just little details that Kira knows about that are just super dark. And I was like, this is awesome. Like I love that Kira is like a super bold, dark character that will basically just fight for survival no matter what the scenario is, but sort of like understand that other people are doing the same thing and be one step ahead, like Thrawn. Like it's a very Thrawn-like character. Kira and Thrawn are very similar. I would say very, very tactical characters. Really, really fun read overall.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad you liked it. I love that thing too. I felt like she just like manifested a whole dynamic for a fake criminal underworld, and I was just like thrust in
like
it.
Black Sun's in this. The Hutts are in. Like, there's so much packed into this book. I was like, read this book if you love underworld stuff, because I don't know. I thought that was the best part of the book, was just diving into the syndicates, the inter-syndicate violence.
Yeah, at a very particular point in time. Cool. Yeah, at the Crimson Rain was.
Temple with all like the traps. Oh my god.
Yeah, and then there's just like a random Indiana Jones like scene thrown in the middle of the book, which is fun.
Yeah, so cool.
Great, man. Glad you enjoyed it. This week. Right, this week we are, we're just at the bar. We're just hanging out. I have this is not chocolate milk. I'll just say that. I have a beverage of my own concoction designed to propel me through a Sunday night of revelry with my friends. We're coming out of Thanksgiving right now. I hope you guys had a good time meeting with family, doing stuff. I actually had a fantastic week. I had 2 Thanksgivings with a couple sides of my family. It was fantastic. But as I told Adam before, man, I'm most grateful for this. I'm grateful to be like at the end of it, all week I was just like, and I know this is corny as hell, but I'm just like, I was like, man, Sunday's going to be awesome.
Big same energy over here.
Same. Absolutely. Yeah. No, just to escape a little bit and be able to just talk about Star Wars and, similar. Yeah. Very nice Thanksgiving, lots of family. But a little Star Wars related is they were running the marathon on, FX, was it?
The Star Wars marathon. Yeah.
Which is really funny because like my daughter who's 3, we're not really watching too much live action Star Wars with her yet, though. Like I have to ride, we're watching on Disney Plus and I have to ride the fast forward button a little bit. Not so much. She's getting there, but there's a couple things I'm like, maybe not. But
I am what you made me.
This
is intense.
It's a little bit. And so but I was kind of had that on the channel skip to, so she would kind of go and do something, and then she'd hanging out with Grammy and Papa. I would just it was just fun to see like where are we now in Star Wars, and just watch a scene and just jump right in, and just like building off of that. Solo, I'd missed all of the prequels. And then I think Solo was the next one up because they were showing it in also in-universe chronological order.
Good.
So Solo popped up, and I just ended up watching like a half an hour, middle part of Solo, and I'm like, this movie's great. Like every time I watch this movie, I'm like, it's a shame it got missed by so many people because it is just a solid Star Wars.
Yeah, man. I watched it after our pod last week. As I frequently get motivated to do. I like immediately...
And sent the text evidence.
Oh, I did, yeah. Of course, these poor guys. So we get done recording at like 11 p.m., and then I will watch a movie until 2 a.m. And I have to I'm like, I can't. These poor gentlemen need to sleep. They have kids. They're doing the things, but I'm just like, but this is so important. They'll wake up to it.
No, that's one of my favorite things is Yeah, my texts are silent, and I wake up to just wow, Ben and I had very different evenings after the podcast. I'm like, I was asleep 15 minutes later. He had just started Solo.
Yeah, exactly.
Solo's such a
but it was fun
adventure.
Yeah, it is such a fun adventure, and I wanted to see Dryden Voss again, and I wanted to look at the Halbyon like defense force they have, and like all the players in that beautiful starship, which is like, I mean, that's got to be a top 5 if like you could own a ship. I mean, that's one of the most luxurious ones we've ever seen.
Yeah,
and then I loved how we got all the
first
intricacies.
light.
The first light, yes, exactly.
Yeah. Right, very cool.
Which is such a great name for Crimson Dawn, and so on and so on. Yeah, great stuff. So, back in the day, before we were kicked out on our butts and now we just sit around a bar and talk about Star Wars, virtual bar, whatever. We used to be a news program. You guys remember that?
Sounds familiar.
Never mind. Yeah. We got some news this week that I wanted to talk to you about. We knew we were due. I feel like Adam and I said last week, we're like, I bet something's going to happen because it's just like the cadence of how they want to stay in the media. It's a little bit of a slower time.
Right.
But it came in an unexpected method. Vanity Fair, as they have their sort of like exclusive coverage of Lucasfilm, they always have the definitive journalism surrounding releases, major releases. I think mostly because of their photographer has been shooting Star Wars stuff forever, and she just shoots beautiful things. It's just it's a lovely relationship. So there was
talking about Annie Leibovitz.
Annie Leibovitz, yes, exactly. Yep. Thank you. So they released after the strike the article about Ahsoka with some extra nuggets. The most important of which I think is that Dave Filoni has been promoted to Chief Creative Officer, or maybe they created this position for him, which is what I feel like. I'm just going to read you a couple sentences here. Filoni will now work more directly with Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy and alongside Carrie Beck, a veteran producer turned head of development, to originate and shepherd the next generation of Star Wars shows and movies. And that's pretty much it. All right, so blah, blah, blah. Filoni says, when we're planning the future of what we're doing now, I'm involved at the inception phase. It's opened up, and basically that's it. He's also saying, like, he's not here to tell people what to do, but he is, I think, the pole star, the North Star, the guiding chief executive.
Help them tell the best story.
Yeah,
they can.
Yeah. Thoughts, feelings, emotions.
I love it. I'm, also, speaking of Solo, tying it back to the last topic, like Darth Maul appearing at the end of that film, do we think Filoni, if he were chief creative officer at that point, would have changed that? Or do you think he had hands on that? And is that something you guys think Filoni was like, it should be Darth Maul because we can build out a big Crimson Dawn sort of early days?
I think Filoni was sitting in the screening room and went, wait, what? Like the rest of us. I'm sorry. When I hear Star Wars movies, that literally knocks it down at least a place or two for me, just that scene. And I feel like you're
making the biggest, boldest moves as this role, though, I would say. Because it's basically, what huge arch character can we use at this point in the story? And do you need to? Not every Star Wars needs that, right? Like needs that huge of a thing. And I feel like, anyway, not to relitigate this whole thing, but it just really complicates Darth Maul's already really complicated backstory in a way that just is just like, what math are we doing here? But I don't know. Like, I don't know. I can't imagine that he was just like, yes, this character that I gave a full arc to and clear death to, let's throw something else in the mix suddenly. Not
just something else. Like, they went from taking him to being this amazing niche character to being like, okay, he is going to be Oedipus. Not Oedipus. I'm so sorry. Who's the guy that pushes
Sisyphus with the boulder?
Yeah. And and
that is what he is, because that is what he becomes, because he basically builds an army within Crimson Dawn that's like what the Empire essentially. He's trying to mimic Palpatine, and it's just such sad mimicry that ends in total failure once again. Like of his plans just foiled every time.
Yeah. I mean, and he even like galvanizes the Mandalorians at one point. I mean, it's like, it's not just like, oh no, we're bringing him back. It's like, if we're gonna bring him back, they made him this mythological icon, and they just went for it with him. And I think it was a great choice. I think, if you're going to go for it, go for it. And I love his character through all the developments through the various phases, his interactions with Ezra, his interactions with Obi-Wan, his interactions again later with, his brother, Savage Opress, and then back again with the Emperor. So much
and
stuff.
that is all Dave Filoni. And so
Yeah.
I'm excited for the Dave Filoni basically led future of Star Wars, because I'm loving Ahsoka. I'm loving the direction it's going with, by bringing in all the characters and sort of allowing all the characters to breathe before there's any sort of giant dramatic, moment in which we lose any of them. And so it's kind of fun. Besides Morgan Elsbeth, but I mean, we gained Ezra back, in the galaxy. That's huge.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that, man. I mean, I think Filoni's known for his bold strokes. For me, that's when I think of Filoni, I think bold strokes. The, World Between Worlds is one of them. I mean, The Force is Within All of Us.
Going to Another Galaxy.
The Night Troopers.
The Night Troopers. He is licensed and unafraid to do really exciting, unpredictable things within the galaxy, where I think most filmmakers would be reverent and conservative and, and doing different things. And I'm excited to have him there. And he does know that. Yeah. I mean, essentially this sort of bumps him above the story group. Like, he is his own sort of story. Like, he's like, no, I don't, I'm the kind of creator that I don't need Pablo Hidalgo in my ear, because I was BFFs with George Lucas for, 7 years or something like that.
This is something that Lucasfilm has needed. And I don't think that's a controversial statement, because this is not a slight against Kathleen Kennedy, who's done an excellent job and still doing her job. But she now can focus on what her real job is, which is like, she's still a creative person. She's absolutely a creative person, but she's a person who's she reminds me, okay, I was going to say something that may come off as a humble brag, but she reminds me of me somehow.
I've thought that a lot of times.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat creative. You're just like Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, wanting to get things done.
Right? I totally am. But my point is that, like, I'm a creative realist. Does that make sense? Like, I can't get myself outside of a box, but I can be really creative in the box you put me in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
And that's who studio heads are, right? Good studio heads are people who understand the creatives, understand the importance of creativity, but also understands the bottom line of, like, what's going to work and what won't work, and how do we manage all these moving parts, right? And so I think she needs to be there, and to give then Filoni this idea of, like, don't worry about the money, don't worry about the marketing, don't worry about, like, the grand scheme of things. You just focus on the Lucasification of Star Wars, right? Just be Lucas, like, just do Lucas, and as we've talked about, he can absolutely do that. I think we talked about it last week. Mm-hmm. Ahsoka, to me, is the most Star Wars product to come out of Disney era Star Wars.
Agreed. Wait, do we all agree on that? Is that all three of us?
I'm not going to make us all agree.
I want to argue with you guys, but I don't think I can. I mean, it's a very general statement, but
it is a very general statement. And like Andor,
I'll say it's the most Lucasian thing.
Go into a bunch of
it's the most Lucas. Yes,
it's like a high adventure. It's total Lucas to me, whereas everything else just feels like either commenting on Star Wars or playing to nostalgia. Like,
or telling
this
a completely
feels like
different.
It's a tribute to. You can either do it as a tribute or nostalgia, and I think Filoni does a beautiful job marrying the two. Or it's like.
But I want to pick up that idea, Ben, because I think you hit the nail on the head. You really got it. You got what I was getting at, but without me even knowing it, right? Like, yes, Ahsoka is the most Lucas-like Star Wars in the Disney era. Andor, to me, is the least Lucas-like Star Wars in that, but amazing, right? And so that's the thing, is it's like we need both these things. And the only thing that makes me somewhat nervous about Filoni, but he quieted this. If you read the interview, it's after getting through it. This no longer feels way, but there's always the fear of just like, is he going to go too hard in that direction that it doesn't allow innovation within, other views, other ideas? But like, I think he loves Andor, and he's talked very highly of it. So I think he'll just be more about, focusing in, especially when we're dealing with like major legacy characters. How does this fit in? Or do we have a plan ahead of us? Because like the other thing is, I wonder how early on this job came to him in the last year or so, because that announcement that they're doing 3 movies, one at the birth of the Force or birth of the Jedi, one that's going to connect episode is basically going to connect episode 6 to episode 7, and one that's going to continue past episode 9. Seems like a plan. Like they actually, for the first time in a long time, have a plan in place of the type of storytelling they're going to tell in terms of the galaxy. And I wonder if that was his kind of like, no, let's step back and look at how we're going to evolve.
How we're going to do it. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a situation where, I think it's a very selfless act by Kathleen, because she's probably responsible for a lot of the best ideas that come out. But it just seems like, in the awful, internet that I dredge through, she doesn't get any credit from it. And I mean, if there's one person that people are clamoring to have to take her spot, it's Dave. So I just wonder if there's some, I don't know. Hopefully, I hope they're not listening to all that garbage, but it does placate those naysayers a little bit, being like, listen,
I didn't even know those naysayers were out there until you just
No, they're so out there. But I think when you're at that level, like, you are laughing your way to the bank.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I think they get along really well. They seem to like each other. They seem to have a really in sync vision of what Star Wars and Lucasfilm is. Yeah. I wanted to bring up something. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna
there's still naysayers. I mean, it's been so successful. And
it is. It's the other thing is
naysayers to everything. Grant, have you looked at the internet lately? It's just like
I try not to, honestly.
No,
good.
Good.
Please
society.
Yeah.
No. I hear mine always secondhand through other people that I like who don't give into it but do like to talk about it. Does that make sense? Like address it. So I'm almost like, stop. If you didn't address it on your podcast, I never would have known about it.
Yeah. I got a meme in the text from a friend today who's not a Star Wars fan but knows that I am, and it was just like all it did was trash on Last Jedi.
Careful about those.
Yeah, and it was like all it did was trash on Last Jedi and Book of Boba Fett, and I was like, so this is what the like dark web is pushing towards casuals as like you should hate these things. Like, and I'm just I'm so fundamentally against that I can't even imagine. Like,
so the other thing I wanted to mention is that Filoni is not just the chief creative officer of Star Wars. He's the chief creative officer of Lucasfilm.
Oh, I didn't make that distinction. I suppose that's right.
That's a distinction because there are other properties underneath that I don't know how much he cares or wants to have a hand in, but he might have some ideas to what to do with Indiana Jones now that Indiana Jones, there's something needs to be done with Indiana Jones. Again, I had loved Dial of Destiny, but that is the last.
I have
that's the last Indiana Jones.
It's just an opening. I feel like
right.
it might.
You got 2 pages, you said?
Love it.
Nice.
15. Ready for
15? Do it.
It's
nice. I
wonder what Willow would have been like with him. Sorry, Siri's talking to me.
Yeah, I can tell. I hope what he says is there's a new Indiana Jones coming to Lucasfilm, and her name is Dr. Aphra. And that's how that conversation goes.
I like that.
Yeah. But I'm obviously biased. There was a little more news about Daisy Ridley had some quotes. It wasn't in this article, actually. I just combed through it. They had some Ray Stevenson stuff too, but it was mostly just like, we love him. He would have loved the reception he got. And
really sad stuff.
Yeah, really sad stuff.
Like the most beloved Star Wars character in a very long time.
Yeah, and I really like that. Like Filoni was like, we had some great. Yeah,
and the conversations, were great in terms of he was just like, like Filoni be like, you're the villain. And he's like, no, I'm not. Not. He's like, no, but you are. But I love the fact that that's what Balin would say at this point too.
Yeah,
just like, because he played it that way. That's why you love him.
And that's why I love him. Yeah.
Oh. He fully believes in what he's doing. Oh, can I say one more thing about that article that I liked about Filoni?
Sorry, we don't have time.
No. Okay. That I think is really key to why I like what Filoni does. He talked about that last shot right in front of the statues of the Mortis statue, right? The Mortis. And what he said is, he acknowledged the fact that this is only going to be understood to a very select group of Star Wars people. So he's not living in a box of just like, I am writing Star Wars for just these fans. He's aware of the fact that when he writes something like that, a small percentage are going to know what that's about. And he knows to sprinkle those things in sparingly, right? In terms of not alienate viewers.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the real trick and one of the things we take for granted. And that would be the thing I would struggle with most in his position. And, when you're creating a Star Wars, it's not just for us, it's not just for the diehards. It's got to be 4 quadrants. It's got to be for kids. It's got to be in ways that they can intuit fun messages and experiences at their level, and then us super nerds to experience on ours.
I basically just ask like 10-year-olds what they think of Star Wars, my son's friends and things like that, and I just ask them who their favorite characters are. I just kind of like to gauge where people are at with Star Wars, and it's but it's now a lot of parents influencing their kids on the films. I feel like a lot of the parents are basically telling their
it's indoctrination
which films are good and bad, and kind of influencing their point of view. And I'm like, I really don't like that. I almost like it when kids are able to approach it without purely influenced by parents' likes and dislikes of the
welcome
films,
the
which
day.
I feel like is happening a lot. I don't know for sure, but I just feel like certain films are getting dunked on that feel like the dark web or what you guys are talking about, where it's like, okay, well, I feel like just let everyone experience the films as they are. I feel like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. I welcome the day when my daughter comes in and starts to argue with me and explaining to me why Revenge of the Sith is the best Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Welcome the day.
Yeah.
I will not tell her she's wrong. I will listen to a well-thoughtful argument.
On all our lists.
And then I will thoroughly destroy her argument, but I will let her make her argument, and I will open with open ears. But, having a kid who I want to be a Star Wars fan, but I fully acknowledge because of the way these things work, will hate Star Wars, and I just have to accept it now. There's Star Wars around, but I don't force it upon her, right? Like you can see the black. The reason if you ever seen my black series not nicely set up behind me, it's because I have a 3-year-old and I let her play with my toys.
Yeah.
So she'll go in and just grab a figure, and I'm like, I'm not setting these things back every time she knocks over all of the Darth Vaders. But let her do with that. She wants to watch the Young Jedi Knights, and that's the thing. I'm gonna let her experience Star Wars without it being forced.
Isn't that what the chief creative officer should do? Basically, that should almost be the MO of that role.
Yeah.
It's like, where are kids at? Like, what do they like? What do they think's interesting?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's funny you said that, Grant, because that was the meme I got. It was a man our age walking in on his teenage son, and he was like, "What are you looking at on your computer?" And he's like, "Gay porn." And he was like, "No, it wasn't. What was it really?" And it was The Last Jedi.
I mean, I don't agree with it, but it's pretty funny.
I don't want. That's horrible.
Yeah,
honestly.
It's horrible.
He's like, gay porn.
I don't even know the correlation there. What's
Right.
going on.
And then he goes on and so the kid, the teenager is like, yeah, but I really like it. He's like, you know what else I like is Book of Boba Fett. And then he pulls out his belt, and it's a lightsaber belt, etc. But it's,
that is, where did you find that?
That's aggressive.
It's Jimmy McNulty, JT McNulty brought that to my attention. Good friend.
JC.
Wow, just called out.
Yeah, just called out. I don't know if he's listening on this pod or not, but I hope he is.
Imperial chain codes are just burned right now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I could be talking about the guy from The Wire because he has the same name as the guy from The Wire.
That's
Jimmy McNutty.
Yeah.
But I don't know where he is, but you should give him a heck.
Also, to Filoni's credit, though, Thrawn could stand in a room with Partagaz and Dedra Miro, and the Tony Gilroy characters. Filoni does a good job doing Imperial characters. I think he does.
Yeah.
I think Pelion, he had a hand in Pelion. If you go listen to the Shadow Council stuff from Mando season 3, it's pretty well done.
Listen, yeah. I mean, Gilroy raised the bar to astronomical levels. I love Filoni, but I feel like Filoni was shooting for that in a lot of cases. Was at least the tone. But that's hard.
So Mangold is doing the Dawn of the Jedi, because you almost I wouldn't mind that being a kind of talky film. I wouldn't mind that being lots being.
I think it has to be, right. There's no lightsabers.
I want it meditative. I want it to be 2.5 hours. I want there to be minimal action.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get any of that.
I want to know how this started.
Yeah.
Who was the first Jedi? I need to know.
Oh, also, Filoni loves to not answer questions about Force Ghosts. So we have this whole debate about the world beyond worlds and all that stuff. And you know what? I got exactly what I wanted, which is no direct answer.
No direct answer. In fact, he intimated he wanted us to have that debate, which I thought was not a debate. But he was like, no, it's I don't know. Maybe
that's
it was
George.
one, maybe the other. And
that's
entirely
Lucas to the core.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I was like, oh, bravo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Daisy Ridley, Rey movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't really have much to say except that. I mean, she didn't really have much to say. She essentially said that she doesn't have a script yet. She looks forward to getting it, but she was told the story, and she says,
"All right." So, anyways, you wake up Tom Hardy. He's in a sarcophagus.
Right? Yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
Tom Hardy's there in every scene.
You're right.
Yes, green light. Done.
By the way, I love Tom Hardy, says the guy who does this movie. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But she said it was not what she expected. Which
all right.
I was like, I don't think I can like. What would you like? I don't know.
There's so you can't even get in to start cracking that apart.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if it was everything she expected, she's still required to say it's not what she expected. Right.
Yeah, right. We don't know what she's expected.
Like, oh, it's exactly what you think it is.
Yeah, it's exactly what I expected. No one wants that quote, right? Yeah. But I mean, if I was to try to parse that apart, if there's anything I would say that would lead me to believe is that it's not going to be a Jedi Academy-like story, because wouldn't that be what you expected?
Yeah.
Right? If you were her and we were she and we were all together.
Yeah, I mean, she does not have to start a temple. Like, that is projected upon her by all the people who want to see the Luke temple and all that stuff. They're like, well, the Rey temple would be just as cool. Like, let's just see that then. And so everyone's just like, she should start a temple. But she honestly, like, I would love just a wayward Jedi explorer, or like if she's like at the top of the pyramid. And
give me some swashbuckling.
The Free Republic, as we've called it.
Right.
Whatever we called it at one point, where we're like,
yeah,
what's after New Republic? What is this thing called?
I love that, the Free Republic. So one of the articles I read was like, I think like generated by AI, barf, but
those are the worst.
But it sort of aggregated all the information, and it reminded me of it may have been a throwaway line, because I as much as I trust and respect Kathleen Kennedy, she says things in these interviews that don't happen. But she did say it takes place 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker. And we talked about that, because it might literally be 15 years after the Rise of Skywalker by the time it comes out. So, and it says like the Jedi Order is in chaos or something, is in having problems, and that's the sort of main thrust of it.
Wait, where is this being heard? Who's writing this out?
AI.
But it's from a real it's a real quote from Kathleen Kennedy. I remember reading it. Yeah.
We had talked about it. That was after Celebration.
But it's an old quote. It's not like it just got pushed into this article.
Yeah, the 15 years, because I remember she did like multiple press interviews right after that, and like she let out certain drips and drabbles about each of the three movies, and that was the big thing from the Rey, is 15 years after. Yeah.
Well, then the Lindelof script, like, she was like in her 80s.
Yes. Yeah. That was the original, and they're like, no, we have a really great dynamic actor that we probably want to like nail down for the next 30 years. Let's not like write her out as Helen Mirren, though Helen Mirren Rey I'd also pay to see.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I was in on it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
this is just my Kathleen Kennedy brain going, right?
And Daisy also didn't shut down it being, she was like, oh, and as far as we know, it's only one movie. But it was like, in the way she said it, was that it's like definitely not, like, unless it totally plummets, I think it's going to be.
Rey also just had like a bizarre love interest, and then breadcrumbs about her parents, and then just like a story that was just unrelenting, sort of like origin tale. And it's like what she needs is her own adventure at this point.
Exactly.
It's kind of like built outside lineage and outside of, all that was built up in the sequels. I think it needs to be a completely separate thing and almost be like.
It's a really important point.
She's not a Jedi. She's something more.
Yes.
It could be great.
Because we haven't gotten that right. Like Luke is great. We love Luke's story, but Luke's story is a lot of just like dealing with his father. Right? Like that is his story. If you look at Luke's arc over episodes 4, 5, and 6 in a wonderful way, this is not a critique, but what we don't get is
someone walks in the room, but like, hear me out. Grandfather.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, So, but the problem is with both these characters, exactly what you're saying, is like, we don't get either of these characters adventures post dealing with their lineage.
Yeah.
Right? Like we didn't get that because of just whatever with Lucas and not getting 7, 8, and 9 until much, much later. And so it's hard to do. But like, so I'm very excited I'm really excited for Rey because it almost gives me what we weren't able to get with Luke and with Mark Hamill, because again, no one's fault, but like because we thought there wasn't going to be 7, 8, 9, like that, like we get continuing stories of someone who has ascended to being a Jedi.
Yeah, and without being under the like 2,000-pound Wookiee that is you're trying to ice the Skywalker, saga. I feel like that was their main thing. It wasn't just like, let's just tell an interesting story.
Well, didn't Kathleen Kennedy also say that there was going to be overlap between the Dawn of the Jedi and the New Jedi Order film, basically? Like
there was something there
some
about
of the conceits and some of the themes and some of the ideas around what the Force means in the galaxy, what its role will be,
which is
in a larger way.
Which sounds like Filoni
how it
again,
affects
right?
life forms and institutions and whatnot.
Yeah, hey, I wonder if we've talked about before, I wonder if some ancient, great, horrible evil is cast in stone in one movie and then released in a later movie thousands upon thousands of years later. Who knows? We shall see.
We shall see.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
if you want.
But I mean, I kind of hope it's not that direct, but like, yeah, you can. I just hope like Mangold's film is just so vague. It's like should be like an art film, and it's just like just it should just be planting a million different mystery boxes that we haven't seen yet, right? And that can be opened at any given point in time. I mean, maybe some can point directly towards the Skywalker saga, but like it should. I think it should just really expand the Force and the nature of the Force and what can be done and what can't be done. And I don't know. I think it's just going to be fascinating, but I think it should be vague and beautiful. And
do you want it to be like classical myth, or do you want it to be like medieval sort of
myth?
Folk.
I think myth, like old, like Clash of the Titans myth,
like Clash of the Titans stuff. Yeah. Okay. Because I was thinking Arthurian would be like is probably like a cool approach, because then it's like I want to see Jedi on like the battlefield on mounts with lightsabers and stuff, but it would be cool if it's like really, really old. That would be really
Do you
cool.
feel like you got that a little bit in Ahsoka?
Wow, that's
you
definitely
do. Balin Skull's outfit,
yeah,
right.
They're definitely going for some of it,
and I mean they do ride those like beasts, which is more Lord of the Rings than anything.
Very Lord of the Rings, but
I want to see an
similar
idea.
Yeah, I know.
It's crystal. Like,
well, I mean, I've
stuck in a way.
We've talked about it many times, but in the concept art for one of these books, I think it was Rise of Skywalker, someone did a concept of the first lightsaber, and it was like a stick with a crystal tied to it.
I know, we talk about this once a year. We're like, by the way, first lightsaber, stick, and a kyber.
By the way,
you activate it with the Force.
Entered lightsaber corner.
Hooray!
But no, I wonder if we're gonna get. Part of me wonders if you're gonna tell this story, how much lightsaber you're gonna get, how much Force use you're gonna get. If it's not more of them unlocking the Force slowly throughout the movie, right? Like similar to what we saw in Ahsoka, right, with Sabine. The other thing, and fact check on this, is I would ask the question, so I guess fact check me just to answer my question. Is Ahsoka? I believe Ahsoka is the first live action experience we've had with Force users that aren't Jedi or Jedi adjacent. Is that correct? With the Night Sisters,
live action.
True. Sort of another.
Live action
Jedi religion, another Force religion.
Yeah, another Force religion.
So that's the other thing. That's the other thing that Filoni has kind of introduced, right? Like, I mean, it's been there, but in terms of like live action understanding, in terms of like I always like to delineate live action because of my wife, because my wife is like, I watch all live action Star Wars, everything else, I don't. It doesn't connect. She doesn't care, not because she's a snob, but just just doesn't enter her world the same way it does ours. So I feel like that's a lot, and I feel like that's a lot of people who do it. So like, that's our first experience to understanding that the Force can be used by others, not just Jedi, right? And so I think that's really important to start adding into the lexicon of live action Star Wars, right? That's where you're going to get some of these other storytelling, I think, ideas of just like, it's not just Jedi doctrine and Sith doctrine.
Filoni's brave enough to bring that to the mainstream. And that's really what I'm most excited about. He's like, he understands the full breadth of it, and he's like, no, there's a lot of things we can pull in here that, the wider audience will enjoy.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff in the Yoda comic we're about to get into that it talks about sort of being wary of Force visions, and I would say the Dathomiri witches sort of in the threads of fate. They're sort of precognitive. The Emperor is always 7 steps ahead of everyone. So it's like there's something interesting about visions and if you give in to them or you don't. And I feel like the Jedi are sort of fight back against the visions or meditate and have deeper, more profound visions, who's to say. But the dark siders seem to like really like obsess about precognition and sort of like seeing into the future. And I feel like the night with the Dathomir witches, I feel like they definitely, it feels like the same sort of stuff that Palpatine's tapping into. Like they can see the future in some strange way.
Super insightful, dude. You're totally right. I didn't think about that. And we should transition. We're going to cover the last 6 issues of the Yoda run, and then we're going to talk about red, white, and black Vader.
Yeah,
black, white, and red. After that, but
there you go.
This Yoda run, you're right. It's like amazing. But I really they talk about visions a lot. But I love that, Grant. You're totally right. Especially,
it's just cool how the Force can connect like across all the different religions around the Force. The Jedi, Sith.
Right. But the light side's always like, ignore it, and the dark side's like, this is your fate. And they get into it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fascinating, man. So yeah, we covered, this is the Yoda run. It was the full arc was, or the full run was 10 issues. We're going to cover 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We had done 1 through 3. I think I'm saying this all right. And it was like a mini arc. With him sort of in his Yoda interacting with this village randomly, and their sort of battles and the lessons he taught them and coming back, and they played with his age where he can come back and everyone's old and he's still the same age. And
that kid makes like one appearance in the comics we just read here with the 2 different storylines.
They do tie it in, but then it got super interesting, right? It's him dealing with Dooku and like his relationship with Dooku. And the whole time it's like there's a Force ghost. It's like, bro, just talk to me. Like, bro.
Yeah, well, during his self-exile on Dagobah, right? So like cool. Justin,
the ghost that talks like this.
We'll talk about it. It's right. Like it's like we had some thoughts about who it is, but it's kind of you always come back to like, I think we all know who it is. like yeah,
so good. Yeah, I love when Obi-Wan is like, maybe you're in the right place at the right time, from a certain point of view.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's, and this is what the most profound notion of like reading these comics. Just quickly, this is kind of a spoiler, but I guess I already spoiled it. Obi-Wan is a ghost.
But we're gonna spoil everything, so don't worry about it.
I just love the notion that maybe because Yoda went into exile, it's almost like the Force is really the main driving, force in the story, basically, because it's sort of like
the will of the
Force. Could have Yoda's exile and his shame, could that have also put him in a good spot to teach Luke at just the right moment about all these things he needed to know, and like and like restarted the Jedi in the right way? Like Yoda was almost like the centerpiece of the Jedi and all that kind of stuff. But I just loved both the Jody Hauser and the Guggenheim story, like both of them. I thought, but I really loved this first one with the sort of Padawans that are in disarray, and the Wookiee Padawan, the Trandoshan Padawan, and Dooku being brought in to teach them, and the Dooku hearing about this Wookiee's like night terrors, and then being like, "Don't tell anyone about this."
Yeah.
And then he doesn't, and it just gets worse, just like what happens with Anakin, obviously. But so good.
Yeah,
like, I thought that was so well done.
Yeah, Wookiee and Trandoshan, they played with that whole notion there, and it was kind of interesting how that ended up playing out. What is the cat creature? Grant, I know you know. Because there's a couple.
I used to know because there's a Jedi Master who's of the same species who from the Republic era.
It was quite a trio, and can only really be done in the comics because of how robust their costuming is. But that was a really fun arc, and I really enjoyed the way it went, but it sort of makes me want to know what happened to that Trandoshan Jedi and their fate.
Togorian?
Yeah, especially because like
Chigorian, is that it?
Togorian.
Togorian. Okay.
Togorian. Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to figure out, and I'm not seeing it on. Funny thing is, I'm not seeing it on Wikipedia. Maybe I'll have to edit Wikipedia live on air for the first for 2 weeks in a row. But I won't do that.
Thermal scissor punch.
Yeah, the Tiger Jedi.
It's still there.
The Tiger Jedi is so cool. Like, is his name Jackson?
Yeah, it's like Jackson.
Jackson. Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, it's so good. I do love that, like, kind of the lesson that they're talking about is just like, yes, there is this history of Trandoshans and Wookiees, and it's a long, bloody history. But like, once you remove them from that history, they're just blank slates, right? And they're friends until the dark side intrudes. But that's the thing too about the Trandoshan is was it GH? I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce it. It's probably comics. Gear. It's Gheyer.
It's
Like
Gear.
Yeah, Gear.
I don't know. But yeah, let's go with Gear. There's a scene where Gear, basically the backstory of Gear is that like this was a baby Trandoshan brought to a hunt, basically, right, with all the other Trandoshans, and like just this, like Yoda enters this is it Yoda? Yeah, Yoda enters this battlefield of just all these dead Wookiee and Trandoshans, and the surviving Wookiees had taken in this Trandoshan, and there's this moment of just really sweet, of just the Wookiee cradling. Right, the Trandoshan baby. That was like really touching to me. I'm just like, this is like,
well, it's like a battlefield
Wookiees
of like
are good, and this is like
thousand dead Wookiees and Trandoshan. It's like it's a
Yeah.
few hundred or something. But
It's
and there's just this
bloody,
one Trandoshan baby, and this Wookiee chieftain is holding the baby and offering it to Yoda. And Yoda's so wonderful in that moment where he's like, "You're safe now. Like, you're coming to the temple."
Yeah.
Such a protector. Love this.
Yeah. I want to, we had mentioned, Grant, you had mentioned that's Jodie Hauser. I want to shout out Jodie Hauser for a moment, who's the writer, because she's like a stealth, amazing Star Wars comic writer, because she hasn't had any like full run. Like, she hasn't written on any of the main series runs, but she's done a lot of the adaptations. Do you remember the Age of Republic books? She did all of those, which are so good. She did TIE Fighter. Remember the TIE Fighter series 1 through 5, which I think were really good. Which I think was the
all that stuff.
Yeah, and introduced. I think that was the Han Solo stuff. So she just did. She's like, every so often will just pop in and do a Star Wars, and just does such a good job. So she's one of those ones that, like, can we get her?
Her other
she's
work
very
is
busy
incredible.
in Marvel and DC world.
One of the greatest who ever did it.
Yeah,
love all her comics.
Yeah.
Nice, man. So yeah, we got some interaction with Dooku there, which is always exciting. It almost made me wanted to go back and watch Tales of the Jedi, but I'm like, no, I just get sick to my stomach because it's such a bummer story.
You try to do your best Christopher Lee when you read this to yourself. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I would be instructed.
But ties in, ties into Tales of the Jedi, right? Because we get the, like, Yoda learns the revelation. Right, that Dooku's the one who killed Yaddle.
That scene is haunting. Wow, you're gonna drop the camera. That scene, that was the cave moment for Yoda, basically. Obi-Wan's like, follow me, like, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
No. Actually, Obi-Wan's chasing Yoda as Yoda's going to get herbs. He's like, adamant he makes soup.
Right, and he's like, oh, look where we end up, the cave again. I wonder how that happened. Will of the Force. Will of the Force. So that's where it culminates. I mean, we see, a bunch of stories, but it's like ultimately Obi-Wan trying to reach out to Yoda, I think, to ask him to help out Luke and train Luke and see where he's at. But I mean, talk about epic dark side cave entrance. Like, you think about Yoda and his 900 years of experience going to face all of his demons.
Oh, his demons. Yeah,
it's a lot.
There was a lot of
skeletons
underneath his feet.
Yeah, he essentially gets buried in skeletons from like all of the like death and shame that he probably has. Like, anyone would just from being alive.
Palpatine calls him out at the end. He's like, "My greatest apprentice of all, Yoda the Blind."
Oh,
yeah, Yoda the Blind.
I was like,
and like,
just burn.
It's so hard. I will say. If you racked up all my L's in 900 years, I'd probably be like so drowning. Worse
that
than
was such a
it's
giant
rough,
L
like,
that we all were just like, all right, you know what?
Yeah.
Life is a struggle. Like, we just got to be more kind to one another.
Right.
That was just
right.
Ouch.
Right. We all forgive
Dooku
Yoda,
attacks
so
him
you
without
should
hands,
hands.
like lightsaber floating ominously in front of him.
Right.
Yeah. That hit the internets before I was able to read it, and they were like, Count Dooku back fighting with no hands. And I was like, well,
coming to
okay.
Disney
Everyone.
Plus.
Internet,
Right.
calm
Like,
down.
I'll wait for the Black Series
7 different
creature.
AI bots.
Yeah. Good times. Yeah, Yoda just, legend. And of course he overcomes and he comes back. I mean, if I was going to ask a hard question, it's like, did Yoda's exile actually stunt the rebellion? Because like when he was in exile, the dark side was flourishing. And then when it seems like he resigns himself to learn again and teach again. And then, we get the Skywalker saga. Or the Luke Skywalker, segment of that saga. And pretty great.
Yeah, because I feel like if Yoda went full cloak and dagger, he probably could have taken out Palpatine. Like,
yeah,
a few vents,
couple events. Yeah,
wait for the Imperial Guards to go on lunch, watch The Killer three times, and then do it.
Just figure it out. Yeah,
tryptophan.
He's really great at he's
Emperor's Lunch.
Sure. Because okay, hold on. Because that's the one you have to emulate. That's the one you want to emulate for how to successfully be an assassin. Anyway, that guy's not just a bad person, a person who's bad at his job.
Notes by
the movie could have been renamed.
No, I mean
Near Perfect.
I know it's great. I love it, but it's just like anyway. That's the person you want to emulate.
Be perfect. You're not going to beat Palpatine, the first time. You just
also faulty narrator. That guy's not as perfect as he thinks he is. No one who eats an Egg McMuffin that way is good at anything. Anyway, moving on.
that is the.
I also love that movie. So I don't even know what I'm talking about.
We were talking
anymore.
about the killer, but now we're talking about Yoda and the.
I know. Now I'm lost in the killer.
Did he diminish the rebellion's effort, or I guess did he?
I think we're envisioning Yoda and Obi-Wan at their prime, and I think if we told an alternate version of just like Yoda and Obi-Wan coming out of retirement to try to take on the Empire, I don't think that was gonna go well. Like, I think Vader was at his prime. I think the Emperor is pretty at their prime, based on like we think of even just the comics where they're at. Like, I think, to be honest, and this may be hard to hear, I think they both would have gotten their butts handed to them pretty quickly by Vader. And
I'm with Adam on that.
This level.
I mean, those are two the two guys who are in there when they're in a corner are gonna get out. They're really gonna.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that Vader got smacked down by Obi-Wan in that period. So, I mean, if they decided to end it
with the light and the hope, I love it.
In the facts.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just saying.
Right,
but I'm not saying. I'm just saying he could have killed him if he wanted to.
I mean, no, if he sure could have, but he chose not to for Force reasons. But I'll say that, like, I mean, I also love it. Me as the ultimate pacifist. But I feel like the other thing is, like, they knew with Luke or with Leia, because again, it was undecided, that like they needed that connection to unsettle. Because part of me always wonders, or still wonders to this day, is that as much as like Obi-Wan and Yoda were talking about, like, you have to kill Vader, right? They use that terminology, but if they buy into what Vader said, is that you didn't kill Anakin, I did, from the Obi-Wan series, right? Is that like to kill Vader, does that mean to absolutely kill Vader or to resurrect Anakin Skywalker? Right? Is to bring him back to the light, is killing Vader. So part of me is like, they knew that this was their only way. Is like they thought they needed the familiar connection of Luke and or Leia to like bring Vader back. Is their ultimate game.
Right. I mean, the more I think about this, more that was the whole. This is the mythological, Oedipus thing, right? Where they were biding their time till the kids were ready, and that would be the weak point, and there they are.
You got to influence the kids.
I almost, got to get them in. Got to indoctrinate them early. I almost bought this week the Star Wars Infinite's Vader. Have you seen the Black Series Star Wars, like in the white armor?
Nice.
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I almost bought it, but I was doing lots of other shopping for other people, as you should.
Taking all the fun out of shopping for yourself during the holidays, but okay.
I may have ordered a purge the other day. That's only because I don't have one.
Nice.
And
I almost was it through the evil empire of wholesale places, because it's funny because I saw that come through the Black Friday deal, and I almost texted you to be like, I'd be like, yeah, Grant must have that.
Grant, I may have a early Christmas gift for you. late life day gift for you. I think we're working together either Wednesday or Thursday, and I'll give it to you.
Oh my goodness! All right, well,
don't worry about it.
You shall expect a goodie as well in a
No,
Cantono.
I couldn't possibly.
I'll have a Cantono.
Nice.
Also, so we admit like Yoda learns the lesson that he puts out in Last Jedi, which is like failure.
The greatest
the
teacher.
Best teacher is, which I
yes,
the greatest teacher failure is, which is one of my
the
favorite
name of one
things,
of
and
these
I like that this is where he kind of learns it.
Great.
Yeah,
I love.
Yeah, but he really is a failure at times. Like I'm sorry, like anytime watching him with Dooku during this whole thing, it's hard not to just yell at the comic books.
This whole era,
which again,
you're just like,
granted,
no!
blinders on.
He
right?
No, but he
just
just
so
gives people the benefit of the doubt, and that's the problem. He's just like, you know what?
He's not.
Dooku's a good guy.
He's good. He's a good dude.
It's also
even though he got in trouble,
right? It's the same
and disobeyed constantly. Like, you know what? He should teach the kids, and he should come to, instruct them while I'm gone.
They made him a council member. But he kind of remember the shady stuff he did to get on the council.
No, he wasn't a council member. He just went on missions for them. I thought, he was just like their number one mission.
I'm pretty sure in this run it sounded like he's doing missions for the council, but then I think he gets introduced to the younglings or the initiates as a council member.
Maybe he was, because now that I'm thinking back to the novels and stuff,
I don't remember.
Yeah, again, I think I've got to make myself watch.
I think he did it, but it wasn't for him or something. Like, I almost think he did it for a few terms or something, and then he was like, "No, not for me."
They.
So the other thing that's really interesting is they double down on the fact that Dooku is obsessed with his childhood in Sereno, right? Like we get that as a big thing about what's that?
The Duchy of Sereno.
What did you say? But the point is it's so interesting wondering if did his failure, right, him leaving the order, influence their perception of Anakin when Anakin was brought from the council, right? Because the last example they have of a Jedi who's super obsessed with his childhood is Dooku, who leaves, and then this next kid comes by and is just like, I miss my mom. And they're like, oh no, we've already gone through this.
I know.
We can't do this again. Right? So it's did Dooku's journey influence their reaction to Anakin?
I think 900 years old is a little too old for the council, you know?
Should there be term limits or something?
Just keep teaching the kids. Just take on the kindergartners.
Yeah, right? I don't know. We need more Mace Windu, because Mace Windu was on top of everything. I feel
like we should
write about everything.
Yeah.
I
also feel like we should move away. I feel like we might start coming across as ageist. But also, 900 years. Come on.
Yeah, no, I'd let Yoda drive any ship I was a part of or any team.
Oh, no, we
could because we love.
Yes, indeed. Anything else from this? I mean, there was some great Anakin. I feel like they were like, you know what? We didn't do enough Anakin and Yoda, so let's do it in a comic run.
Or Mega Droids.
Mega Droids.
Sorry.
I'll be honest. I love this series. It's a great miniseries. I enjoyed reading those. This is the second time I've read through it, and I keep forgetting the Anakin. To me, it wasn't as awesome, and it wasn't badly written, but it wasn't I didn't have as many takeaways other than
it does it kind of like Luke Skywalker blowing up the Death Star thing with Anakin, where it's he has to put away the targeting computer and save Yoda.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has that moment. The theme is the whole size matters not thing, and Yoda's still teaching Anakin, and so proving that.
Love the back and forth between them.
No, I love both the characters, but I think it was a gratuitous, just these two weren't in the same room enough.
So the stuff that I feel like we're missing from, I guess that I can't really project onto this. This is wrong. This is wrong.
Please
this is me as a total fan.
Say it.
I'm going to fan out for a second here, which is there's a moment in this comic where Anakin and Yoda are just standing among an entire dead battalion of clone troopers,
Oh my
And
god!
I was
Yeah,
like, this is
the
just missing
326th.
from the
Yeah,
narrative, like the death and the toil that the Jedi had to deal with.
Yeah.
Like it's just missing
Yeah.
from the tapestry, and it's almost like when I saw that panel, I was
I
like, this is dark, and this explains Anakin and Yoda when they're meditating in Revenge of the Sith. It explains other moments with them where you're like, oh, they're like
it's
PTSD, so they basically have to like turn the lights off and
yes.
just like
It,
take moments of silence
yeah,
all the time.
that's always my headcanon is that them becoming generals of a clone army is what led to the destruction of the Jedi's. Like it is that moment where they were like adding too much black to the white, too much gray to the white. Like you can't get that black out once you put it into white. You can't get back to pure white. Like it just feels like that corrupted them to a level that and I mean I think that's Dooku's plan. I mean not Dooku's. I think that was Palpatine's plan, right? Was like it was not just winning this war because I feel like if he really didn't want that war to go on for 5 years, 4 years,
right.
however long it went on, 3 years, that he could have figured out a way because he's literally playing both sides. He was just sitting there letting them just corrupt themselves, right? Just like go further down the well of good intentions.
And decimate. Well, decimate's the wrong word, but thin out the Jedi to almost nothing to get them, defeatable.
Yeah.
And Grant, you were talking about like that beat of the tragedy of war and being on the battlefield, and like they lost their whole battalion, and like based just off what we've read recently. I mean that gong got rang 3 times, right? We saw this. We saw in Ahsoka, she's still suffering from PTSD from her battles in the Clone Wars, and then Rise of the Red Blade, we get a first person point of view of what it was really like to lose these people and to see more and more caskets coming back every day at the temple during the Clone Wars. And it's heavy, man. I mean, and like those other 2 experiences that we've taken in really informed this one with Yoda. I was just I was devastated.
And Anakin's super desensitized to it too, where he's like, our forces are depleted.
Yeah.
Our forces are depleted.
Also,
I was like, these are people.
They're dead.
They're people.
Everyone's dead.
No.
Yeah.
It's the exact same terminology that the Separatists would use about the droid army, right?
Yeah. The Jedi,
it's exactly the same
terminology, which is like that's what's almost like what I'm hoping we can get into at some point. Which I think there's totally space for a Clone Wars show that's like basically just sweet spots of the Clone Wars that aren't in the animated series, like whatever you can do, basically. Stretch them.
Yeah, I would
keep
totally
waving
love
that flag,
a
Grant.
live
I think
action.
It's a tough sell because they've done so much about it. But what you're saying, it is different, and it would be special if we could get it. I mean, everyone would lose their minds if we got it. They would be so happy. I think it's everyone's favorite.
It's tough though. Tales of the Jedi and certain
it is
content has already filled some really enticing voids of like that story.
Yeah.
And Clone Wars, obviously the later seasons, and I feel like they definitely end the war. Like they definitely show how it ends in a really great way. I would almost want to know just like in the middle of it, the slog and the
yes.
Just like almost like Saving Private Ryan a little bit with the Jedi, where they're like, "Oh, that clone was just talking to me, and then he got taken out by like a laser turret," and so they're just traumatized from this war, basically, and that's why they fall apart as sort of like a protectorate, religion of the Force and of the light side. They basically sort of turn into, I don't know. I guess they sort of become hamstrung with these visions and these traumas that they have from war. Like it has to be that. Like that's kind of why it falls apart.
Wouldn't it be amazing to have? I mean, maybe I'm pitching this for a second. Being like, this might be really insensitive for a second, but
just the bar. Just the three
I was
of
thinking
us,
it would
no
be
one else is here.
Just to have a Jedi character who can't tell if the visions they're seeing are flashbacks or flash forwards because of their trauma would be interesting, right? Like, are they re-experiencing trauma, like as people with PTSD do, or are they seeing visions of the future, right? And struggling with that, just have one character struggling with that idea of just like, is
That's
this a
interesting
vision of
because
the
there's
past or
something
the
to
future?
live for there, and it's like, it's. Even though you suffer from trauma, like push forward, push on, try to do what you can to find your calm, whatever you can do. And I feel like that's what's great about the Jedi is they sort of, I think they could help, millions of people who are suffering from PTSD, because it's like it could be a meditation on that and how you can do it in a healthy way and sort of recover from it. That could be your main character. That could be your big centerpiece character. That is like, maybe the Jedi are wrong, and sort of like, I almost love the Ahsoka story, but it's just been trapped in animation for so long that it's like, I almost love the idea of just being like, you know what, the Jedi are not for me. Like the day that Baylan Skull and the day that Ahsoka are like, this is not for me, is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like that. And if you do that with someone else, that's just as interesting. I would just love to see it, you know, like that the day they do leave the Order because the war is too much.
Which the Yoda series seems to suggest that is not uncommon, right? Because the Trandoshan does leave the Order, right? And so like you can absolutely tell that story of a character who leaves, right? And just follow their I was gonna say redemption, but I don't know if it's a redemption story or not. But follow their journey,
because that's where, for me, once you get outside the Jedi Doctrine, anything goes, and it's like, well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna
put Hayden Christensen in it?
Yeah. So this is like, listening to you say this, I'm like, well, you
1 moment.
I don't think you could get Hayden and Ewan McGregor to be like, okay, the next 3 years of your life, you're gonna put the armor on and get ready to swing some lightsabers around.
No, they just
cameos.
Certain battles or certain theaters where they're there.
Yeah, I think you need to create a new character, or it needs to just be. It can't be any of the big three or whatever from the Clone Wars. It has to be like a side character that would be your avatar.
What about Anakin and Obi-Wan coming in together? Clean entrance, clean exit together.
That'd be great. I mean, it'd be great if they did like 2 episodes like that. Yeah, like the first episode and the last episode are Hayden and Ewan. I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah. I think you could probably get Hayden Christensen to do more than.
I think Hayden's game, but Ewan, I just don't know.
Yeah. No, Ewan not so much. I mean, he seems to love doing the character, but I think he's like, it's got to be the right
if it's
thing.
Raining
He's
and
not
hood up. I keep talking about this. Like, you just hide it as much as possible, but it's Anakin Skywalker, and like the guys in the trenches are talking.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's cool. Yeah. Like, that's like, that's interesting.
And by the way, I want to make it clear that wasn't necessarily a shot at Hayden Christensen. But in terms of like, I think he is reveling in the redemption of Anakin Skywalker, and as rightly he should, and he's being given this ability to show he can actually do this. Like, he talks about in that interview that we talked about earlier, he mentions the fact that he got to play an Anakin he never got to play before, right? And I think he does a really good job with that, and I think he would love the idea to be able to put more of current Hayden on screen as Anakin than was previously on screen.
What if you do one Anakin Skywalker episode and it really digs into, I guess maybe the sort of like long-winded nature of the war. Like it's sort of too long. Like what's happening is sort of now becoming, it's devolving into madness, basically, like Apocalypse Now. Like it's almost just too. The war's been going on for too long, and that's the one Anakin episode. And it's like, you get him in and out, but he gets to have a few words where it's like the character actually gets to have a point of view that's not just overtly bad. You know what I mean? It's like or longing and tragic, and because it's tragic, I'm villainous. It's like instead he could have a point of view as a light side character for just a second. You know,
could give him tell a story of the. I'm trying to think how to pronounce it, but the mundanity, right, of war, of how mundane war becomes after a time for that character, of him just almost on autopilot, going through a battle, right, and talking about like, and not even knowing like, what planet? Who are we fighting? What is the point of this?
That's
right, like this
comedy,
is the 7th battle I've had in 4 days. I don't know why we're here.
Yeah, that would be great. I do think Anakin was one of the generals that just got harder and harder as time went on, and he just got colder and colder about everything, as evidenced by this comic we just read. But yeah, I mean, gosh, that would be fantastic. Do you think so? I'm thinking of a couple ways this series could go, seeing that we're fleshing it out. I was thinking, following one character, but now I'm thinking you could do vignettes about a bunch of different characters from all over.
Sure.
What characters would you like to see? I'll start Sifo Dyas. Because they talk about the insanity.
Mined heavily. Do you think all his stuff was pretty heavily mined in the Clone Wars?
It was, but I could use more. Just a little more to flesh it out in live action. And because I was thinking about it because of what Adam said, where it was just sort of like the PTSD is so extreme they don't know where they are anymore. Like that is Sifo Dyas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you're right. They've done that with this character.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a specific character initially in mind, but just it's dark, but we're talking about Warren. Like, we can tell these dark stories if we're telling like an adult series or like a live action series that is harder to do in Clone Wars. But like, I'd love to see a story of just, and we got a little bit of this in the Ahsoka, of just like a Padawan whose master is just killed immediately on the battlefield and has to take, like, this idea of like having to be a child soldier, take this, but like it's worse than being a child. I don't want to say that, but it's different than being just a child soldier in that like now you're a child soldier that all of these adults are asking you, what do I do? Yeah. And that person like realizing making battle decisions that get clones killed, right? And like just having to struggle with that and just show, because I want this thing to be not like the horrors of war.
Yeah, right.
You know, like horribly gross and disgusting, but more of just like how this infects the Jedi, right? Like just Anyway, that's my thought. Yeah,
I have super boring answers where it's like I would want mostly all new characters, but maybe this one Anakin episode we're talking about, and but I wouldn't mind seeing one of the more outrageous sort of puppet masters, like
Yariel Poof,
not maybe Yarl Poof,
Ki-Adi-Mundi. He's not really a puppet guy, but
there's like a snake guy though on there with the beard. You know what I'm talking about? Like I almost want to see that guy in a dropship, just holding on to the thing next to you, and you're just like, what's happening? And then he's out there just wrecking house at some point. Like that would be just weird stuff. Like I don't know.
Let's get weird.
Can I get real dark for a second? Yeah. I want to see Yarl Poof beheaded because I want to know. I want to know one of two things. Does the head just float up like a balloon, or does it shoot around like a balloon that's popped?
We'll leave that to our listeners. Feel free to email us at Cantina Chronicles.
Just let us know. Do you think it's just like a balloon that like
feel free to comment.
Up?
We are now live on YouTube. Let us know what you think Yarl Poof's head would do if he was beheaded.
But you're talking about characters we've seen.
I feel like next week's going to start with an apology, but let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. No, we love a Clone Wars show. That'd be great.
Quinlan Voss.
Vader, guys. Should we get to Vader?
Quinlan Voss.
Yeah. You want to get into Black, White, and Red?
Yeah. I mean, these are very short, but each story I thought was just so fun, and the art really stood out to me.
Yeah. So for like a bit of background quick for listeners is that like so Marvel and DC has jumped on board with this as well. They have these for a lot of their characters. They have this black, white, and something color. Oftentimes black, white, and red. And literally what that means is those are the only three colors in the comic. They're black, they're white, and they're shades of all those and red. They've done a very popular run with Wolverine, Harley Quinn, and DC has gotten it.
Elektra, I think.
And they do some other ones. Elektra got a black, white, and red. They play around with that sometimes. I think there's like a black, white, and green for Hulk or something. Cool. Anyway, but like that's this thing, and it's usually bringing in other storytellers in this. And so for the 4 issues of Black, White, and Red, there's one continuing story over all 4 called Hard Shutdown by Jason Aaron.
So good.
So
good.
So why don't we start? My thought is like, let's just talk about that arc for a second, and then we can come back to some of the shorter ones, which are really funky and cool. But this is like the more traditional, if that makes sense, of a comic. That it's got a narrative to it that's clear. It's not super experimental, but it's definitely a really fascinating story. So clearly you both loved Hard, as did I. Love this. What do you got with it?
I love that it's like it's the sort of pulpy, like ask me anything about Vader, sort of story direction where it's like, if Vader was completely,
shut down,
immobilized, basically. Like, would he still be able to use the Force? Like, will he still be able to fight back if basically the suit is shut down and he's just laying down on a table? And the answer is yes. You get your nerd answer in this comic, and Jason Aaron just does it so well in such a fun, almost felt like a Tarantino piece in a lot of ways, where it's just like bunch of cyber slicer. I guess I forget what they're called. But just the cyborg scientists, like a chop shop sort of guys who are basically like,
Oh,
So they're
Yeah, and
allegedly
they
very
basically-
high end, right?
Yeah.
Like the guy. What's the name
Right.
of the guy that put Vader's suit together?
yeah, I guess it's the scientist who basically was the
Yeah.
leading cybernetics
In the galaxy, I think.
engineer in like the galaxy who put Vader's
And
suit
so
together.
Tested
was
on his
Sin's
child.
Yeah.
dad.
Experimented on his kid.
And then we're
That's the
dealing
thing,
with
is, like,
Sin, his
that's-
son,
let's-
and
Yeah.
he's got electric.
Let's back up
tattoo
there
and
for a second.
Cybernetics of his own.
Yeah.
And I don't
Like,
I just
that
love
is-
this.
That is
so
so
dark.
dark.
Yeah. I love how dark it was. Like this, so it is the back up for a second. The basic plot is that the son of one of the people that were basically hired to create Darth Vader
Yes.
is now trying to kill Vader in the most horrible way possible, which is basically just like immobilize him and deconstruct him, pull him apart, and he can feel everything. And we find out his motive for revenge is that his father basically was just trying to make him into Vader after Vader, basically like trying to make him better than Vader, which is just like slowly. It's like Thanos with Nebula in the Marvel universe of just like I think there's a scene where he's just like, and then when I was awake when he was taking out my, was it like arm bone? I can't remember what he says. Like he was taking out my tibula. I decided I will kill this man at some point.
It's just a
Like,
great
just,
line
like,
of
really
like,
gruesome.
I thought that would be a great time to make his role mine or something, and I was like, oh,
Mhm.
that is dark.
That's dark.
So he immobilizes Vader and then learns that Vader can use the Force to kill everyone.
It's such a great horror moment. I thought of Adam when I was reading this comic because Vader basically just picks up like a vibro saw and just chops through everyone in the room with it just by using just the Force and telekinetically, throwing it around the room.
That was so great.
And they shut the doors on the people, and the people are like, "Let us out!" Like it's just such a horror, such a horror.
Yeah.
And just as a note, I really love these black white series that they do because they come out and Grant used the perfect word earlier of pulpy, right?
Yes.
And pulper. And like so like the conceit of these is that a lot of old black and white comics were black and white because they're much less expensive to produce than full color comics because of cost of ink. And so like some of the best comics of all time were started out in black and white. Like The Walking Dead, for example, started out is a black and white comic. All of the series is black and white, and it started out because Robert Kirkman knew he could save a lot of money, do that, get a good job, get a good thing through Image, and he also thought it looked really cool. They're now doing color versions of all the comics, but it doesn't feel like Walking Dead to me. But Teenage Mutant Ninja, just like a quick history lesson. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If you read the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and if you have not, you all should do that tonight. The original run of the black and white Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is really good. It is not your fun cowabunga Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It is basically taking the piss out of Daredevil. But it is dark. There's violence in it. It's super gritty. Ben, have you ever read the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
No, but I'm imagining it's a lot like Michael Bay's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. No?
Exactly like it. No. But as a fan of samurai stuff,
it's like that.
Yeah, I mean, Lone Wolf and
you
Cub.
should
Lone Wolf
read
and
it.
Cub
Like
is
you
black and
really
white.
should. You should
Okay.
know that. You should.
Sold.
You should get it. It's really good. But it started out in black and white because Eastman and Laird, the creators of that, again, self-distributed, self-published it. It was very expensive to do it in any other way. And like the original black and white run of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as a person who doesn't even like anything since that, is really, really good. Anyway, quick. Sorry, I just fell down a history hole, but that's what I do.
Actually, now I've got a new comic to read.
No, these felt very pulpy and were super, super fun. And that's why I was just had so much anticipation to do them with you guys, because I was like, we got to do these because, I guess hard shutdown, we should say that Vader totally trounces these cybernetic, enhanced freaks and basically pins Sin down in like some sort of like insect layer, and Sin gets eaten alive, and sort of he immobilizes Sin with the Force, and it's just like, now you're immobilized and you're gonna feel everything and hear my words.
Oh my gosh!
And then
I know. I'm sorry, I don't have the quote, but it's something along the lines of like, no, I don't experience fear. All I have is fuel. It's just because fear is hate, is anger, and he's like, I just live on that, and that's how I'll always beat you. Yeah, I do love flexing Vader. That's just like, you'll never be as dark as I am, and it doesn't matter what you come at me with. If the more you hurt me, the stronger I become. And this whole 5-issue arc was like that. Yeah, really cool, man, and really dark and scary. Do you guys have any other favorite runs? Because I know I have a favorite out of these.
Go for it.
It is. Sorry, I'm bringing it up here because I don't want to misquote it. It's Annihilated by.
So good. That one is so good.
So story, art, and letters by Daniel Warren Johnson. Adam, I don't know who this person is, but it, like in my naive brain, it was very Ralph Steadman, and which is like the only thing I have to compare it to.
No,
but it's
totally.
like,
Good pull. Yeah,
it's beautiful and wild. And like I want this art on my walls. Like so many of these panels. I mean, there's one where he's pulling the transport like straight down into the ground, the like rebellion transport.
Yeah.
It's just like it just hits, and then there's one where he's got his like his ship behind him. Oh, I don't know. It's a very wild style, and even the way he like makes the noises and all those things are just fantastic. The lettering is crazy, and he does different lettering for different people. And then and the ending, it's like, they're like Lord Vader like just kills an entire battalion of rebels, and from his command ship they're like, Lord Vader status report, Lord Vader, and like that's where they do the notes of like who did it. He just says in quotes annihilated, and then it's like story by, like that's where I don't know, it just hits hard.
It's great. I was trying to, the name sounded familiar, so I was trying to look at what he is known for.
This art is awesome, dude.
He does
issue 3.
Yeah, he does a lot, but stuff that I'm not super familiar with. Do a power bomb. Seems to be his big like self-created stuff. But one thing he did, which is super fun, if anyone wants to read it, from a couple years ago, one of the big two, he wrote Jurassic League, which is just what if the Justice League were a bunch of dinosaurs.
Fantastic.
That's it.
Great.
It's exactly that. There's like a Superman dinosaur and a Batman dinosaur, and they're just talking as dinosaurs and fighting.
So they're just like roar, roar.
Yeah, but they talk English. Okay.
I thought they just sort of like walked around a jungle and like nothing really happened.
Yes, to the point where they actually brought this into the real. Anyway, it's worth, like, if you like his art style and his writing style, it's very much that. So that's fun. He also did some Beta Ray Bill, call out to Beta Ray Bill, one of the best characters in comics.
Such a fun Thor character.
I also want to shout out a couple other things. So just to kind of connect it to upcoming Star Wars things. So 2 writers that were on this have gotten full-time, or not full-time, but have been asked back to write more things for Star Wars. And the first that I'll bring up, because I have it right now, is in that same issue, Mark Bernardin wrote the 3rd piece, which is the diplomatic impunity.
That was so much fun.
Which was really well. He's coming back to write a Mace Windu miniseries comic for Star Wars. So that'll be coming up. Yeah, so that's awesome. He's a super interesting writer. I think I mentioned it before. Actually, when we were drafting directors for Star Wars movies, I drafted him because he's done a really good short called Splinter, which is a really good sci-fi kind of thriller short. You may know him. He's on the Fat Man Beyond podcast.
He's the co-host.
He's the co-host. He's the one who has opinions that aren't everything's great, which is Kevin Smith's opinion about everything that he'll talk about. But Mark Bernardin's is always the no, let me actually give you a critical view of this thing.
Right.
So
which is definitely admired by us.
Agreed.
We love to talk about things that we love in a critical way, because I feel like we gain insights from doing so. And Mark Bernardin's definitely leading the charge in that respect.
Yeah. And then
and that story was great. Diplomatic immunity, I think.
That was really good. That was on my list.
So good.
The other one that's
impunity.
Yeah. No, diplomatic impunity. The other one that's on my list that I really, really loved was in the first issue, second story, which is Inescapable by Peach Momoko.
So good art. That's what I want a tattoo of on my back. It's just Vader crashing down with his saber on. Is that Leia and whoever that is? It's just it's subjective. It's just someone dreaming about the terror of Vader, and it's haunting and just so good. Like the art is out of control.
It shows you kind of, to me, I think we talked about a few issues ago when we talked about Dr. Aphra, and Dr. Aphra's like PTSD surrounding Vader, which I appreciate.
Yes.
Of like, just like, that's the reality. And that's what the reality, if you survive an encounter with Vader. this is what your life is like, right? Like just these dreams and terrors. And that, like, I want just a full, like, I have a 3-year-old, so I couldn't hang this in my office, but all I want is that scene at the end with the eyeball TIE fighter.
Yeah.
Like, that is a great piece of horror artistry.
What about the Vader with the lightsaber?
The Vader's so good with the lightsaber.
Massive.
Yeah.
That frame is insane.
Just this one here. Yeah, just
that.
Yeah,
that exact one. Yeah.
So that's why I love these kind of these short story ones, vignette ones, because you can just tell a really weird story. She, by the way, they just started releasing Star Wars Vision one-shot comics, so we'll cover those way back when. But Peach, I assume, is she, but correct me if I'm wrong. Not familiar with her or him or they, but they are right. They just did a full comic, one of the Vision standalone comics that I'm really looking forward to. So we'll cover those.
Her like Days of X and her X-Men stuff is out of control.
Yeah.
It's the most beautiful comic book. Those books are just gorgeous.
It's one of those ones that I didn't know who it was, but once I looked her up, I was just like, oh, of course, so many things that I'm like, oh yeah, this is great, this is great, this is great. Yeah.
I mean, it was like a haiku. Comics, it was like this beautiful poem.
Can I talk about my favorite one?
Yeah,
your turn, buddy. Let's go.
The Inhabitant.
Yes.
By Steve Orlando.
Yeah.
This comic.
Remind me which one this
is.
This
comic was just like transcendent for me.
Yeah, I thought of you.
Vader is on an alien world.
I thought of you when I was reading this.
Breathes in some sort of bacterium that goes
into his system. Yes.
Fights it like psychologically. Like
that one was
sort of like astral.
Wild.
And then he like forces it out of his, like bleeds it out of his eyes or something.
Yeah, I think it actually came out of his rebreather. Like, yeah.
Oh. But he's such. I just want to swear about. I'm just gonna swear for a second. But Vader's such a petty bitch too in this thing. Like just to get over. I love the fact that he goes back and just like sprays antibiotics over the entire.
It's just like Purell's the whole planet.
Yeah,
Purell's
the entire planet.
But it looks like there it felt the very last panel. He's like there was no other inhabitant but one, and it was like a growth off a rock, and it was like a red stick growing off a rock, and he cuts it off with his lightsaber. And like he thinks like, I don't know, that made me believe that was like the origin of this microbiome like species that like inhabits your body.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, and then it just like it creates like it gets into your like whole system, your nervous system, and then concocts what your deepest fears are. Like it gets into your memories, and then you have this like astral plane battle with this person. Yeah, it like on a ground of his creation, and like Vader's like, I live. Well,
it was also like there are no life forms on the planet, like after a scan, but then like Vader traverses the planet and then I guess inhales something. It was very like, Ridley Scott's later, alien films with like Covenant or something, where it was like just breathing in the air. Vader got something like, and then it claims to be the life form dominant on the planet. And it's just it almost felt like a Star Trek plot. I really liked it.
So that was Steve Orlando.
Yeah.
And Grant, you'll get more out of this than me, but apparently, like he writes a lot of the Scarlet Witch, books, and the current Scarlet Witch book that just ended was real good.
Okay, I should read it.
But also,
I'm looking for new Marvel comics.
Have you read the newest version of Spider-Man 2099? Like,
yes, because I collect 2099.
I thought you did, because we've had many conversations off air. So he did the newest one, which are so weird, and I love them.
Oh, and they're so good.
They're so weird. Yeah, and so I'm like, once I read that, I connected. I'm like, oh yeah, that guy's a weirdo, and I like him. Like he writes super.
I'm surprised, honestly. Like I was just thinking about this the other day. Why is there not like a 2099 video game? Like,
I don't know.
The formula with the Spider-Mans, and I'm just like, all you gotta do is make that like a future tech city, and it's the best game.
I literally am. I just finished up the story on Spider-Man, not 2, because I'm behind on all my video games. I just finished up Miles Morales. Loved it, but I'm like, every time in any of those games, I'm always rocking the 2099 suit in every game. Yeah. Anyway.
So wait, there's Spider-Man 1, right? That was a hit. And then there was a Miles Morales game and a Spider-Man 2 game that came out in the last 2 years, Mike?
So the Miles Morales was the day and date PS5.
I got
game.
it with my PS5.
Yeah, it came out with it. It is actually weird. It's slightly shorter than the other ones. It's full price, but it's definitely worth it. It's just a slightly shorter game. I actually kind of like the length of it. I'm like, maybe more games this length. And then they just released the Spider-Man 2, which is kind of a sequel to both those things. So basically it brings in the plot of both those.
New powers. It's a really fun game.
I'm very excited
We won't
to
plug
play
it too much on a Star Wars podcast.
I know.
But
I'm
if you're looking for a game.
swamped in video games right now. There's so many that I want to play that RoboCop game.
we're going to talk about one after the pod ends that I'm excited to talk to you about. But I haven't even started it yet. I'm just going to start it, I think, tomorrow night. Or
is it Alan Wake 2?
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
I'm playing it right now. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I know.
Nice. I'm so behind the times. I missed the Alan Wake train. I got to get back on it or get on it. I got to catch it. I've heard good things.
You need to.
I almost want to buy the first one again, the remastered. I was like,
yeah, they
honestly,
just remastered, right?
I don't know how much that'll help you. Like, do it. Whatever. It's like $30.
Yeah.
They did a remaster, but there's also another. It's called like Console, I think was the other one. Like, there's like a bunch of YouTube videos that are 20 minutes long. I found one by the creator. And like they explain what happened up until Alan Wake 2. Definitely watch that.
Well, Spider-Man 2, if you just want to jump into Spider-Man 2, there's an awesome sort of prologue and last episode this happened. Cool. Like they basically
spell it all out.
They cover
They did the same thing. They did the same thing at the beginning of Miles Morales, and they were like, "Do you want to skip this?" And I'm like, "I know the plot of Spider-Man 1," but I was like, it was like a movie, so I'm like, no, I will watch this. It was like 10 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a great movie. I cried. That was a good game. I cried again just from the the replay of the And those games make me cry.
That was Video Game Corner.
Yeah, a new thing apparently because they don't have any Star Wars games really right now.
Yeah, that Ubisoft one will be good when it comes out.
It's gonna rain Star Wars games soon. I think like there's so many in the hopper right now. It's just going to be like bang, bang, bang. I think we're going to get like 3 within a year. Eclipse is coming. Right. That's like, not Scoundrels. What's it called? What's the next one that's coming out?
Oh, yeah, I think it is Scoundrels, not?
No, it's Outlaws.
Outlaws, that's right.
Outlaws. Outlaws. And don't forget, what was the mobile game that they keep?
Oh god!
A companion piece came out that keeps getting pushed. I'm like, can we just admit that's never going to happen?
Yeah,
can we just full on cancel that?
Oh, no, but like the good ones, like Ubisoft should have something at some point. That Eclipse should be coming out in the next couple years. Like there's a bunch that are being done, and then I think I saw like another one too that another video game company is doing. Like now that we're free of the shackles of EA, they can do this. And
that Outlaws game. Like that Ubisoft or Outlaws game, I just give me Red Dead Redemption 2 because there's a moment I started playing. This is just a peek into my mind. I started playing Miles Morales, and I'm like, I have very little timing for gaming now because of my life, but like I get like a couple hours in a week, and I'm like, do I want to just maybe only play Red Dead Redemption for the rest of my life? Like maybe I'll just make this my life. So like maybe I'll just go back and do it. I'll get everything done. There's an online version of it. I'm like, maybe I'll just do this forever. I could do this forever and be happy. And that's what I want from Star Wars, whatever that like open world game is like maybe that'll be the game. Maybe that'll be the game I end on, and I'll just pay for the next 30 years.
We're gonna get that game someday.
Yeah,
we're gonna get that game. I mean,
it's really all you have to do is sort of make a believable open world, hub on several different planets, and then really compelling, AI.
Boy,
that's walking on the map.
We are hitting the bingo card heavy tonight, and I'll just add one more. But like that's what Star Wars Galaxies was for me. The old open world MMO PRG was just like I lived that world for a lot of years.
And I think I sent you guys.
If you did the Clone Wars, that would be wild, by the way, because then you could have battles erupt, like emergent events, basically.
Yeah, you could do a whole. There could be microeconomies with like bounty hunters and smugglers and all that other stuff. I'm thinking back to Black Flag. People are starting to realize what a great game
that game
Black Flag.
But
like it had the best. Everyone that I've seen online like agrees that it's like the mini game in there of like creating a naval fleet, like economy, like sub economy to like feed what you're doing, and is like It's awesome. It's addictive. You could play you're able to do that on your phone, and I could like send out like from like work or whatever fleets to like go gather more like shipments, and sometimes things sunk
There
and
were
whatever. But
so many faculty meetings and classes that I got interrupted with the little like pop up going, and I'd be like, and I'd be like sending out a new fleet while lecturing.
this is important.
I wouldn't even stop
shipment
lecturing. I'd be like, yes, let me continue talking about threats to internal validity while I'm like sending my guys out. No, that game was that was like basically my Red Dead Redemption 2 before Red Dead Redemption 2. I played that game like through and through and through.
I might call that bad boy up again.
Yeah,
but again, I've just got a list because Alan Wake is massive, and and I don't really understand it, but I've got my cousin's helping me out with it. Which is fun, but for some reason I'm addicted to stupid Mortal Kombat 1.
Hey, we all got our thing.
Yeah, it's because I need like a day to get into Alan Wake. Like, just go for it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And
yeah, I know. I'm trying to set it. Yeah, create the time.
No one talk to Dad. He's busy with Alan Wake, or like an overnight. Like, really, it's something you should play from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m.
And that's definitely what that game is all about. That's why I got it. I was like, this game is a late night night owl game.
I missed those. Yeah.
Anywho,
what are we talking about? What's going on?
I think we finished it up. Favorite stories of the run. I said The Inhabitant.
We all got ours in. Yeah, they're all really good.
We all put ours in.
Definitely read these comics if you can. Part of Marvel Unlimited right now, so you can just run through all of them. They're beautiful and fun, and you just can't miss with Vader. I don't think it's
no.
All these writers just get him, and they do cool things, and
the Return to Hoth issue where he the story where he fights
that was a weird one,
Whoppers.
and he limps. They drag his cadaver out of there, right? And then he just killed the guy's and
he kills the officer who
hey, I warned you.
I warned you, and he's like, you're dead now. Bye. Yeah.
No, this will definitely be one that I buy trade paperback, just a collected work of it. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, man. So I think we are now ready to transition into. I think it's going to be High Republic December for us.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch coming up. I think the next thing will be Tales of Light and Life next week, if we can manage to all read that. And then we will have the next major novel, something meow meow meow.
The Eye of Darkness.
It is Eye of Darkness. All these titles, bro, that they all sound the same in my memory.
Ben, I've got the spreadsheet up. That's the only reason I know.
Thank you.
Was there an Eye of the Storm too?
Yeah, that was another one.
There's a lot of Eye stuff, man. But it's Eye of Darkness. I've seen people sort of murmuring about it online, and I'm shutting it out because I feel like there's going to be some heavy stuff coming down. And a lot.
The occlusion zone,
definitely, and
the Hetzel system.
And then Grant,
what's happening out there?
I think we talked about it last week, Grant, when you weren't on. But I think we're gonna try and break our rule about reading comics until it's 6 months later. I think we're gonna try and read whatever.
Keep current with the
High Republic because it needs must. And I love the idea of just sinking into the High Republic for a month and just thinking about everything that goes along with that.
There's a character encyclopedia of the High Republic coming out.
I was gonna say,
I don't know if you guys have been ordering some Christmas gifts for the holidays, but
I mean, I will say this:
there are some great entries from Lucasfilm.
All of these have been pre-ordered, and when suddenly they hit when I get that Tuesday where I wake up and go, why is my account balance low? It's because 4 Star Wars reference book came out in one day, and they sent them all to me, and I'll be happy. Yeah, I'll be very happy, and not having any Dunkin' Donuts for the next 2 weeks, but it's fine.
I think, I mean, if you have to ask whoever to get this for you early, I think it'd be great to have this as a companion piece for next month because it's just there's so many characters, bro. They say it's 250 characters, and it doesn't even include Phase 3, really. So there's a little bit of Phase 3, I guess, but we all know who Geode is, but other than that, it's all kind of wishy-washy to me.
Yeah. Same. No, I'm very excited to have this. This is something that I know they can't do until now, but I'm it almost makes me want to go back and reread everything with this just next to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because it's you need a reference there for what's going on. I know they don't want to spoil.
I'm just begging for more galaxy maps, honestly.
Agreed. Yep.
I thought Timelines was going to have a new canon galaxy map.
Sorry, buddy.
Nope.
It didn't.
One of these days.
I mean, there was that maps reference book that I think most of us However, you know, and it has kind of new-ish galaxy map, and I think that's the best you're going to do. But we'll see. So yeah, High Republic coming in. We're gonna try and really sink into it for a while. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Tales of Light and Life. A bunch of vignettes, and it's gonna get us primed for Phase 3, and then boom, we're into Phase 3, and then we're gonna wrap up this epic adventure, which is gonna be great.
Yeah,
in the next few months. So awesome,
love it.
Well, that's great, man. Had a great time with y'all. Just hanging out, talking Star Wars again this week. A lot to be grateful for. Everything seems to be going well with Star Wars. We might have a little quiet time, but and by we, I mean Lucasfilm, but us, we're going to have plenty to talk about because we always do.
Always things to talk about, yeah.
So looking forward to going through that.
I'm sure we'll get more, material on the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew.
Yep.
Andor season 2
Bad
and
Batch
things
3.
that we know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Andor season 2. Can you even imagine? Oh. Okay, everything's going to be great. I'm just going to go think about that and maybe just rewatch Andor 1. This is fun, y'all. Can't wait to talk to you next week on
Cantina Chronicles.